The sun dipped below the horizon, pulling the warmth from the air in a single, swift motion. Leo stood at the edge of the tall grass, watching the light bleed out of the sky. Where there had been gold, there was now only a bruised, deepening purple. The change was not gradual. It felt like a weight dropping onto his shoulders, his tail tucked tight against his belly, a reflex he could not control. He did not wait for the last sliver of light to vanish. He turned and bolted, his paws hammered against the cooling earth, rhythmic and frantic, tearing through the grass toward the safety of the den. Every shadow behind him seemed to stretch and reach, hungry for the space he had just vacated. He reached the cave entrance and scrambled inside, his breath coming in sharp, shallow gasps. The interior was a jagged throat of stone, cold and dark. He did not stop until he felt the solid warmth of his mother beside him. "The darkness is swallowing the world," he whispered, his voice trembling against the silence of the cave. He stared out at the ink-black savanna, waiting for the night to finish what it had started. His mother remained still, her presence a heavy, unmoving anchor in the gloom. She did not offer comfort. Instead, she shifted her weight and nudged him forward with a firm, insistent push. Leo resisted, his claws carving furrows into the hard-packed earth of the den floor. But she did not relent. She forced him toward the threshold, making him look out into the vast, ink-black expanse of the savanna. He squinted, his eyes straining to find a shape, a movement, anything to explain the void. The silence of the night was absolute. Then, the bushes just beyond the cave entrance snapped. A sharp, violent rustle tore through the stillness. Leo jumped, his spine arching, every muscle locking into a rigid, defensive knot. He let out a thin, trembling roar. He backed away, but his mother stepped forward, her body blocking his view of the unknown. She sat down, a solid wall of resolve. She did not look back. Her voice was a low, steady vibration in the dark. "Sit." The command left no room for debate. Leo hesitated, his weight shifting from one paw to the other, his muscles coiled for flight. He looked at the black gap of the entrance, then at the solid line of her back. He lowered his haunches, the dirt cool and gritty beneath him. He remained rigid, his gaze locked on the swaying shadows of the brush. They sat in silence for a long minute. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of dry grass and cooling dust. Leo kept his eyes wide, tracking the movement of every shifting branch. Then, the wind changed. It brought with it a sound he had ignored in his panic, the rhythmic, pulsing chirps of 1,000 crickets. The noise was not a growl. It was not a predator. It was a steady, repetitive melody that seemed to vibrate through the ground itself. Leo's ears swiveled, twitching involuntarily. He pressed his paws into the earth, his claws retracting as he leaned forward, his focus narrowing. The sound did not stop. It simply persisted. The cricket chorus continued, a steady pulse that anchored the night. Leo's shoulders dropped, the tension bleeding out of his frame. As he realized the pattern held no malice, he tilted his head, his ears swiveling toward a new sound. The wind swept through the acacia trees nearby, creating a soft, whispering friction. It was not a hiss of a predator, but the rhythmic brushing of leaves against leaves, a sound like gentle applause. He listened, his breathing slowing to match the cadence of the trees. He looked up. The sky was no longer a black void. It was a dense, glittering tapestry of stars. The moon broke through the cloud cover, casting a sharp silver glow over the savanna. The light hit the grass, carving out the path he had run earlier, turning the terrifying unknown into a series of familiar shapes. Rocks and trees emerged from the gloom, standing still and solid. Leo stood up, his paws finding purchase on the cave floor. He walked to the entrance, his tail swaying slowly behind him. The darkness had not changed, but his eyes had adjusted to the light. Leo stepped across the threshold, his paws meeting the cool, damp earth of the savanna. The air felt different now, no longer a weight pressing against him, but a current flowing around his frame. He moved forward, his stride steady and deliberate. A cluster of fireflies drifted from the tall grass, their light blinking in a rhythmic golden sequence. He stopped, tracking their flight as they wove through the dark, illuminating the space between the trees. He turned his head, watching the shadows of the rocks shift as the moon climbed higher. The fear that had driven him to the cave was gone, replaced by a sharp, clear focus on the world around him. He took a deep breath, the scent of night-blooming flowers and cooling soil filling his lungs. He was no longer a fugitive of the dark. He stood in the center of the clearing, his tail swaying in the breeze, watching the night